Yai dai 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 Yai dai 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 dai.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Good Shabbos.
So Rabbi Sapphire is in her office greeting the folks on Zoom. And I want to say there are many Zoom regulars who have returned to the sanctuary, some for the first time in a very long time. So it's great to see you in person. It's like a shehechianu moment. And it's good to, we've been looking at you on Zoom, but we want to hear your voices tonight. So it's great to see everyone. Let's do as we do each week. Before we bring in Shabbat and turn off the cell phones and all those modern distractions, let's have the children in our midst under the age of 13 perform that last act of creation, which is tzedakah. I have coins, and while they come forward if they'd like and grab a coin out of my hand for tzedakah, if the adults can introduce themselves to the people around them. Just say a quick hello if people are in front of you, behind. All right, take one coin. There we go, and put it right inside. Excellent. Will you take one too? Just take. Great. All right. All right. Perfect. Here we go. Here we go. Excellent. Shabbat Shalom.
Yanai, 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 yanai,
Before we sing one more nigun to kind of set us in the Shabbat mood and spirit, I just want to give a TBE welcome to our dear friend, Jacob Spike Kraus, who is joining us tonight to help lift up our worship. Now, Jacob, or Spike as many of us know him, is not a stranger to this area, for he went to GAN Academy. He also has been through the Eisner camp, both as and Tarashi. So Spike is no stranger to our community, but perhaps what brings him to us in the best way possible is the long and deep friendship that he has shared with our rabbinic intern, Ryan Lesner. So we welcome you tonight. We welcome you home tonight to be part of our Shabbat worship, and we are so grateful for what you're going to add to our prayers tonight. Thank you for being with us.
So before we join together, I've asked Ryan to share an ancient nigun that means a lot to me. Can we sing this together? Introduce it to the community.
Yai, yai, na, 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 na. Yai, na, na, na. Yai, na, 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 na. Yai, na.
Let's light Shabbat candles, page 120. And for the honor of lighting Shabbat candles this evening, we have all of the participants, or many who are here and on Zoom, who traveled with Ryan to Alabama and Georgia as part of our civil rights trip. And so if you'll come forward, if you joined the civil rights trip, when was it, November?
In November, and also if you joined Rabbi Sherman,
As well?
whatever year that was before my time. Anybody who has ever joined a trip
Selma,
to the south,
Montgomery, Atlanta.
Atlanta, Georgia. Come on up.
If you have not been on this trip, this should be, in all seriousness, American pilgrimage. The value is so great. So an invitation. We're going to have another trip next fall.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של שבת.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thanks for strengthening our community and the sacred work we do here and leading the way. Let's now join together celebrating Shabbat. The words are on the screen and in your prayer book. L'chadodi, come, let us welcome Shabbat.
שמור וזכור בדיבורך, השמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ולתפילה לך אדוני, לקראת קלה בני שבת מקבלה לך אדוני, לך אדוני, לקראת קלה בני שבת נקבלה, לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה, מראש מקרב נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה, לך אדוני, לקראת קלה בני שבת נקבלה.
התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באוהל
stanza.
Boi v'shalom.
Come, enter in peace.
Enter
in joy. We welcome Shabbat. Welcomed Shabbat, letting go some of the stresses of the work week. We enter into our evening prayer, the call to worship, Baruch. So I've asked Spike tonight to bring to us his new setting of Ma'ariv Aravim, our evening prayer for God's creation.
Shabbat Shalom. It really is so sweet to see y'all. I mean, I drove here from New York and it was really nasty outside, like really nasty. And then it was even nastier when I got across the Connecticut line and all the rain turned to like sleet. That was gross. So it's really nice to feel all the warmth that's really emanating. And you sound really fantastic, really nice. There's a tradition in Judaism of midrash. Midrash is where scholars fill in gaps in stories in the Torah, because believe it or not, this might shock you, the Torah is not always very straightforward. Sometimes you're like, you get from A to C and you're like, well, what happened in the middle? And so the rabbis have this tradition of midrash, which is how they fill in gaps and well, actually what happened is da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and that's why you ended up at C. One of the ways that I incorporate that tradition of midrash into my Jewish practice is by writing alternative melodies and alternative prayers that use language from text by flipping it on its head and presenting it in a new way. So I know that we are on screens tonight, but if you reach under your seats and pull out your prayer books to turn to page 148, and if you are joining us on Zoom tonight, if you do a quick Google search for the English text of Ma'ariv Aravim, our evening prayer, all of the English words that you're going to hear in this setting, you can find there on the bottom of page 148, sprinkled throughout this melody, this interpretation, are English snippets of what the prayer actually says. So those will be in your prayer book. I don't believe they'll be on the screens. But there are words on the screen, and because you sound so excellent, you didn't think I was just going to sing at you. We are going to sing together. Our prayer, Ma'ariv Aravim, that talks about how God separates the light from the darkness and the darkness from the light. So if you would please do me a favor, sit up straight, feet on the ground, deep breath in, slowly out. It's 2 parts. The first part goes like this. Or mipnei choshech. Try that. Or mipnei choshech. Lovely. Second part. V'choshech mipnei or. Try that. V'choshech mipnei. Will you try that from the top, please? Or mipnei choshech. V'choshech mipnei. Sing it out, sing it loud, you sound beautiful. Or mipnei choshech. V'choshech mipnei or. So that little 2-line phrase, you should feel free to sing all the way through the piece. It doesn't come always, but it does fit always. So whenever you feel the Spirit move you, or mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or, feel free to sing that little tag along with us. And otherwise, I invite you to share this interpretation with us, with the words hidden throughout the bottom of page 148. We'll start together. Here we go. Or mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or. Or mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or. Another day coming to a close now. Day into night, with another one right around the corner. Darkness to light. And all the stars falling into place now. Watch them twinkle, see them gleam. Baruch atah Adonai Hamariv Aravim. You sound so lovely. Don't be afraid of your harmonies. Or mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or. You're making all the changes to the seasons. Winter, spring, summer, fall. And we know you must have your reasons, though we don't understand them all. Now here you are bringing on the evening with just the words that you speak. Baruch atah Adonai Hamariv Aravim. Or mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or. Sing it out, sing it loud. Or mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or. Keep it going, don't stop. Oh, darker the night falls down. Darker the night falls down. Darker the night, we all gotta fight for a little more light. The darker the night falls down. So may you go on forever, just watching over me, and putting it all in its place now in this world that I can see. So open up the gates to a new place, because this day grows late, and soon I'll lay me down to sleep. Baruch atah Adonai Amari v'Aravi. Baruch atah Adonai Amari v'Aravi.
We turn from the beauty of creation, the blessing of creation, to gratitude for God's gift of Torah, God's gift of learning, with the words of Ahavat Olam. Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadeta. Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha Otanu limadeta. Bevatach al tasir mimenu leolamim. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev amo Yisrael.
Continuing together. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. And Karen Mundell, if you'll come forward as we continue as a congregation, words of V'ahavta. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'eleh asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'aderech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
I've been asked to give a little talk, but only 1 minute long, about something that happened during the civil rights journey. So it was tough to do, but here I go. It was tough to do because there's so many moments. In Selma, Alabama, listening to Linda Blackman Lowry, a very inspiring woman whose mother died due to the evils of segregation, tell her story. Linda was beaten bloody at the march over the Edmund Pettus Bridge on Bloody Sunday. But despite her fear, she took part in the march over the bridge later that month with the thousands of people across the country who heeded Dr. King's call to come to Selma. She was just turning 15. After hearing Linda's story, crossing the Edmund Pettus Bridge, getting to the bottom and looking at the patch of grass where John Lewis and other marchers were beaten bloody by state troopers. It looks so ordinary and insignificant now. After the bridge, entering the memorial park that pays homage to so many of the people who fought for civil rights in Alabama. Seeing the mural with the faces of James Reeb, Viola Liuzzo, and Jonathan Daniel, who came to Alabama to serve the movement and were murdered. Their names were not familiar to me before this trip, but now their names are etched on my brain. I have been so enlightened by this civil rights journey. Thank you for making it possible, Sherry and Edith.
So liturgically, we are a people that marches to freedom step by step, knowing that one day we can reach the promised land if we all work together. And I just want to acknowledge the many people who are engaged in the sacred work of Tikkun Olam here. I want to acknowledge a philanthropic gift that we recently received to support our many efforts in Tikkun Olam. And may we continue to walk step by step towards that day when all will celebrate and be free. And that song of celebration that celebrates that moment in our liturgy that gives us the promise of tomorrow is Mi Chamocha, and the words can be found on the screen. Recognizing Martin Luther King Day was celebrated this past week, looking at the picture that now is a part of our Boston community.
Mi Chamocha Ba'elim Adonai Mi Chamocha Nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot, osef eleh. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot, say
celebrate one day by the shores of the sea, that moment of celebration and joy.
חוצך ראו בניך בוקי הים לפני משה ומרים זה לי אנו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד Who is like you Adonai Who is like you Who is like you Who is like you Adonai
We all rise at this time, if you're able, for the tefillah. Oh God, open up our mouths that we may praise your name.
Adonai, sifatai tivta. V'yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, sifatai tivta. V'yagid tehilatecha. Open up our lips so we may praise your name. Open up our hearts so we can feel our pain. Open up our souls to let our love make us whole. And we will praise
We will praise
your name, Adonai. Sifatai tivta. V'yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, sifatai tivta. V'yagid tehilatecha.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot V'imachot, U'mevii Geula Livnei B'neihem, L'ma'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah Ata gibor le'olam Adonai Mechayei hakol ata Rav lehoshia Mashiv haruach u'morid hagashem Mechalkel chayim bechesed Mechayei hakol beracham ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידה מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
We continue with the meditations of our own hearts.
יהיו לרצון אמרי פי, והגאון ליבי לפניך. יהיו לרצון אמרי פי, והגאון ליבי לפניך. אדוני צורי וגואלי, אדוני צורי וגואלי. If this is new for you, it's a safe space, I can already tell. Please try it with us. יהיו לרצון אמרי פי, והגאון ליבי לפניך. יהיו לרצון אמרי פי, והגאון ליבי לפניך. אדוני צורי וגואלי, אדוני צורי וגואלי.
Before we continue, I just want to acknowledge Spike's original composition, which is so beautiful, and with gratitude for his sharing his melodies with us and words with us. Could you just share our musicians' names and maybe even the instrument's name that they're playing?
Would love nothing more, Rabbi. So in addition to Jacob Spike Kraus joining us tonight, we have Noam Sender on percussion. We have our very own Danny Silverston on piano. And another one of our congregants, I encourage you to come say hello to him and his amazing family, Ezra Cohen on dobro. That's a guitar that's kind of like laid flat in your lap. You can watch him. And then another one of our very own who works here full time and plays here is Mr. Sam Powers on mandolin and a bass mandolin?
Octave, yeah.
Octave mandolin. And then certainly Cantor Rosenberg is joining us from Tat Shabbat. So we are blessed with so much. We praise God through instruments in our liturgy, and I can feel that praise happening in our services as well.
And with our hearts so open and so full, this is a beautiful opportunity to turn our thoughts, our prayers to those who are in need of an extra measure of that uplift and that peace on this Shabbat. And so if there's someone you are thinking of, whom you love, who is in need of healing of body, of mind, or of spirit, I'll invite you to rise at your seats so that we may hear you say those names aloud as we go across the room. And for those of you on Zoom, please feel free to list the names of those you are thinking of in the chat. And to email, please email the clergy if you would like us to reach out. We turn to page 371 for the words of Misha Berach.
Misha Berach Avoteinu Mekor HaBracha Laimoteinu Made a source of strength who bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say,
We also have the joy of being able to share our simchas, our shehechianu moments, the moments that are given to us by God that give us a chance to celebrate together. So if there's anyone here who is celebrating a shehechianu moment, a God-given milestone, like a birthday, an anniversary, I know we have a lot of people back in the room for the first time. If you want to do kind of a collective raise your hand shehechianu, we haven't done this in a little bit. It's beautiful to see you.
Beautiful.
It's so good to see you. Any other shehechianu moments, birthdays, anniversaries?
Wednesday was Pam's birthday.
Mazal tov. Oh, what a week. Well, 2 birthdays to celebrate in this week. Mazal tov to you. a question. I love that question, and we're going to chat about it afterwards. It is a really good question, and I really want to chat about it 100%. To add to our Shehechianu moments. Why is our Siddur printed in New York if the words are from God? It's a really good question. It's a really good question. Bonnie, I want to catch your Shehechianu moment.
It's dying.
A grandchild's birthday, 2 grandchildren's birthday. Mazal tov to you. Yes.
Neil and I celebrated a birthday, and we are traveling to New York to my father's 99th birthday.
Wow. A 99th
Mazal
birthday in the
tov.
family and a birthday here. Mazal tov. Beautiful. Other Shehechianu moments? Shehechianu moments.
Okay.
Beautiful. A short one. A Shehechianu moment.
These are holy moments. Those that know me know I speak from the heart. A week ago today, I was with 7 other volunteers from the nonprofit Boston Cares, sharing lunch at the New England Center for Homeless Veterans. I got the people together. I said, listen, in the spirit of Martin Luther King Jr., thank every veteran who you serve. Some are from my Vietnam era. Some are from the Korean War, very few. Most are from the first Gulf War in 1990, some from the second Gulf War in 2001. But thank you. I do this for every man at the Pine Street Inn who has a hat, who's a veteran.
So a beautiful
Serve them.
opportunity.
After that was very holy.
A beautiful opportunity to offer gratitude to people who have served our country, and that is a beautiful thing to offer gratitude for in every week. Let's join together for all of these beautiful moments together, Shehechianu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Shehechianu v'kimhanu v'hegianu l'zman hazeh Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Shehechianu v'kimhanu v'hegianu l'zman hazeh. Let's say Amen together.
Well, Shabbat Shalom. So this evening, I'm going to invite up my good friend, Jacob Spike Kraus, to come and help me with this one. Hey, bud. It's good to have you here. It's good to see you.
You too.
So this evening, I'm going to share several stories that have deeply changed my life and some experiences that happened while on the civil rights journey this past November with some of our congregants from TBE. And I feel very lucky to have been on that trip, to have been challenged to think hard about what it means to truly recognize others as B'Tselem Elohim, people made in the image of God. Even when such a recognition might be difficult because of race, lived experience, religion, or distance that exists between us. And if I can summarize what I've learned in one sentence, a little more than one sentence, it is that each and every person's story is sacred, and that it is our responsibility to hold these stories close to our hearts, and then also to lift up these stories for others to hear, so that we can create a better world to live in for all of God's creations. So it was Sunday. It was the last day of TBE's civil rights journey, and I was standing at the King Center, looking at an incredible landmark. It was a gravestone that recognized the burial site of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his wife, Coretta Scott King. and surrounding the gravestone was a pool of water. And if you looked to the left of the fountain, this is my left of the fountain, you could see water rolling down a series of steps, and each step was labeled with a famous quote from Dr. King's well-known letter from a Birmingham jail, as well as from his famous I Have a Dream speech. And the steps read, "We will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream." And standing, watching the ripples of water flow down, I thought about the legacy of Dr. King and the entire civil rights movement. Thought about all that I had heard on the days prior and the work that still needs to be done in this country and across the world.
Let justice well up like waters, and righteousness like a mighty stream. May the land decide she's satisfied with the blood of no more sons and daughters. And well up like water. Teach me how to flow like a river. Teach me how to flow like a river. To face what's in my way and keep on moving just the same. Teach me how to flow like a river.
On Friday, while touring a museum run by the Equal Justice Initiative, an organization committed to ending mass incarceration and excessive punishment in the United States, we heard the story of Anthony Ray Hinton. Now, Mr. Hinton was arrested when he was falsely identified for the two murders of two fast food workers in 1985. Mr. Hinton, he did not murder anyone. He was completely innocent, and regardless of that fact, he was arrested and brought into court. And then Mr. Hinton was convicted, guilty on all counts, and was sentenced to die in prison. After 30 years on death row, Brian Stevenson, the founder of the Equal Justice Initiative, discovered that Mr. Hinton's defense attorney, provided by the state, and the state of Alabama themselves, they mishandled evidence. And when they were able to go and prove that, Mr. Stevenson got Mr. Hinton released from death row because there was no evidence that Mr. Hinton had committed a crime. And the state of Alabama eventually had to acknowledge that they made a mistake. But to this day, Mr. Hinton has not received any compensation or an apology from the state of Alabama.
Teach me how to stand like a mountain. Teach me how to stand like a mountain. Defiant, strong, and proud before what tries to tear me down. Teach me how to stand like a mountain. Let justice well up like waters, and righteousness like a mighty stream. May the land decide she's satisfied with the blood of no more sons and daughters. And well up like water.
So in November, I learned that there is a major problem in this country when it comes to mass incarceration. No country incarcerates more people than the United States. And out of those on death row, 41% of them are black. And it is estimated that 1 out of every 10 of those sentenced to death is actually innocent. And even more disturbing, 1 in every 3 black men will spend time in jail. So make no mistake, Mr. Hinton was arrested because he was black. He was put on death row for a crime that he did not commit because the system that exists is not set up for him or men and women and children like him. And when I hear this story, I don't just think of Mr. Hinton. I'm reminded of every black person who has been unjustly arrested, every black person who was lynched. I think of Jack Turner, who was lynched in Butler, Alabama, for organizing black voters in his county. I think of Thomas Miles Sr., who was lynched in 1912 for allegedly writing a note to a white woman. I think of Private James Neely, who was lynched in Hampton, Georgia, for complaining when a white store owner refused to serve him. It is so important to acknowledge that it is our responsibility to lift up these stories, to share their pain, and to be outraged in order that we may be proximate to them, eliminate the distance that is between us, and work to create harmony and equality in our world.
Teach me how to hear when I listen. Teach me how to hear when I listen. To not avert my eyes when I hear a people's cry. Teach me how to hear when I listen.
So in this week's Torah portion, Va'era, God speaks to a soon-to-be freed Israelite people. And God states, I have now heard the moaning. I've heard your moaning, Israelites, because the Egyptians are holding you in bondage. And I have remembered my covenant that I have made with your ancestors and made with you, and I will bring you into that land that I promised. But when Moses told this to the Israelites, they would not listen to Moses. Their spirits were crushed by the cruel bondage. So despite God's message that they will be redeemed from slavery, the Israelites have little to no hope. Slavery rips those enslaved of their human dignity. It steals a person's dreams, it steals a person's livelihood, and it creates distance and diminishes the value of each human life.
Teach me not to yield like I'm iron. Teach me not to yield like I'm iron. To see these wrongs addressed, to not accept anything less. Teach me not to yield like I'm iron.
When we are proximate to one another, when we hear each other's stories and deeply care for one another, we are able to stand together in the face of hatred and make sure that it doesn't overtake us. We are able to create pathways for connection.
Let justice well up like waters, and righteousness like a mighty stream. May the land decide she's satisfied with the blood of no more sons and daughters. And well up like water.
So this famous quote that's being sung from Dr. King, I don't know if you know, I didn't necessarily know. It was adapted from the book of Amos, a popular book in our tradition. So naturally this Shabbat, I'm thinking of the words of our prophet. And I'm sure many of us in this room have heard this famous verse before, but I'm also sure that many of you don't know what comes before. What comes before is a rallying cry for justice. And so Amos, speaking on behalf of God, states this: I hate and I spurn your festivals, and smell no fragrance in your convocations. Should you offer up to me burnt offerings or grain offerings, I will not accept them. Nor will I look on the well-being sacrifice of your cattle and take away from me the noise of your singers. nor will I listen to the melody of your lutes. Here, Amos is screaming on behalf of God, calling out abhorrent moral behavior that was happening at the time from the people and from their leaders. People then were concerned with earthly possessions and neglected to care for our most precious possessions, human life. It's a rallying cry claiming that worship and service to God, when paired with injustice, that's an insult to God and God's people. Without doing the difficult work of recognizing and accepting someone who is different than you, God does not accept our prayers. But rather, when worship is paired with justice, then justice will roll down like waters, and righteousness like a mighty stream.
Teach me how to soar like an eagle. Teach me how to soar like an eagle. To be what freedom means, and not just a symbol people see. Teach me how to soar like an eagle.
So as we began to wrap up our trip in November and say goodbye to our trip leader, Billy, he reminded us of something very important, and I'm going to remind you all now. He reminded us of what Brian Stevenson often teaches, which is that slavery did not end with the civil rights movement. It evolved and continues to evolve today into mass incarceration. Working to end slavery in all its forms is an ever-present task. And he also reminded us that the stories of the civil rights movement in the South, they don't just stay in the South. They travel. And so as we think about our lives and we think about our duty to make the world a better place, how can we take the words of our sacred texts, the thoughts and prayers for a better world, and how can we turn them into action so that justice can truly overflow this earth and that truth and righteousness may flow like a mighty stream?
Let justice well up like waters, and righteousness like a mighty stream. May the land decide she's satisfied with the blood of no more sons and daughters, and well up like waters, well up like waters, well up like waters, well up like waters, well up like waters.
I want to thank Ryan and Spike for their teaching this evening. I want to acknowledge the leaders of our Racial Justice Initiative and invite everyone who hasn't been on the civil rights journey to join us next fall for the third annual trip from TBE. I really do believe it's really a sacred pilgrimage that really is an obligation for all Americans, and I hope we can help lead the way. Jess, do you remember the date for next year? Veterans Day weekends. And it's Thursday to Monday? I think so, something like that. Thursday to Monday? Sunday. Thursday to Sunday, good. Starts in Georgia and ends in Alabama. I'm going to go on Zoom now and lead the conclusion on Zoom. Rabbi Sapphire, if you'll lead in here. Let's all now rise in the sanctuary, if you're able, for the words of Aleinu, speaking of those words of promise that one day can be better than today if we all hold hands and walk together in deeds of social justice. Page 586.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
And Bonnie, a final word about the trip, will you share?
Martin Luther King's birthday, the difficult conversations about the powerful sculpture Embrace, just installed on the Boston Common, and the poignant memories from our Temple Beth Elohim civil rights trip, juxtapose as a strong reminder that our work for justice and equity is far from done. Returning to several of the places that I visited on a Facing History and Ourselves civil rights trip over 20 years ago, and then spending time in Brian Stevenson's more recently founded Lynching Memorial and Legacy Museum, I am aware of just how much there still is to learn and process. I had never conceptualized the enormity of the loss at sea of over 4 million enslaved people on their journey to America. I had never listened to actual stories of enslaved mothers and fathers awakening to discover that one of their children had been taken in the night and sold to a never-to-be-known, faraway plantation. The power of these teachings is chilling, and it awakens me at night. But it was our arrival and joyful welcome at the Ebenezer Baptist Church. It was that moment and our morning in that parish which I hold in my heart as the highlight of our trip. The moment when Reverend Raphael Warnock introduced the members of TBE to his congregation, and they turned to welcome us with a standing ovation and with enthusiasm and with love. Warnock had just learned that the court had allowed voting on the Saturday after Thanksgiving, ensuring that more people would be able to vote, and he shared that with his parishioners. We were in the midst of history in the making, an election now possibly won, and we were in the midst of people of faith and passion for justice and dignity for all. That is what a faith community is all about. It is about never giving up on hope and believing that while we might not finish the task, we will never desist from getting started and continuing the work. I felt a palpable bond to these churchgoers. They reminded me of our community at TBE, where knowledgeable leaders of our social justice programs help each of us, when we are able, to step up, get involved, and take action. Partakers, refugee resettlement, gun violence prevention, green energy, TBE table, reproductive justice, and the next TBE civil rights trip in the fall. They are all calling my name, and I hope yours as well.
Yeah, sure, Koach, Bonnie, thank you. As Bonnie mentioned, it is not up to any single one of us, nor can it be any of our tasks to complete the work of completing this world. And as we remember those who have passed from this earth, we remember the work that they have completed, and we vow, we take on the responsibility of continuing their work in this life. So let us transition to remember those who we have lost and remember their sacred work that they have completed. If you are observing a yahrzeit, an anniversary of a death this week, or are currently in a period of mourning, we invite you to rise, to share the name of your loved one with us, as well as your relationship to them. Did we miss anyone? We have also been asked to read the names of William Friedman, Jean Goldstein, Harold Ifshin, George Roberts, and Josephine Vernon. May their memories be for a blessing. So let us all rise in support of these mourners as we turn to page 598 to recite the words of the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divrach chirute v'yamlich malchute, B'chayachon v'yomechon u'v'chaye decho Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehi shemei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lamei almaya, Yitzbarach v'yishtabach v'yitzpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yithale v'yithalal shemei kudesha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi ishalama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen.
Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
We have a few announcements before we conclude. You can remain standing. Take a nice stretch. The first thing I want to mention is that we have a very special Shabbat coming up on Friday evening, February 3rd, which will be in our liturgical tradition Shabbat Shirah, the Shabbat of song, and we will be celebrating together with our immigration justice team, who has planned a very special evening after Shabbat, a dinner and a musical program as well. You can see a lot of special learning programs that are starting to begin this week and following will call your attention to Introduction to Judaism, which will be a wonderful series led by Rabbi Harper and us all throughout the year. And you can check your announcements that came out today to see the rest of what is going on. All right, it's getting late.
Yes, we are a little behind. We're just going to do a quick Adon Olam. Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem Kol Yitzir
Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kishanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratza banu, v'shabbat kodsho, be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lemaaseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila, lemikra'e kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim, ki banu bacharta, v'tanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha, ve'ahava uvratzon, hinchatanu.
Lift it nice and high.
Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh hashabbat.
Bar mitzvah boy gets the drink. It's just juice.
Is it juice?
Just juice.
Promise?
Promise. All right,
lines
how
for the
about all of
program
our
after.
kiddos who have not yet become bar mitzvah? Come on up. We'll share motzi together. Come on up. There's
Come
a
on
lot
up,
of you
Alex
tonight.
Taylor.
Hooray.
Oh,
All right, let's do hands on the bottom.
Ella,
Can you do
come
hands
up.
underneath? Hands underneath.
Connor.
All right, here we go, everybody.
All right, Shay. Put your hands up. I love
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz, Shabbat Shalom. Grab a bite of challah and we will wish you all a big Shabbat Shalom.
Yeah.